Well, I can for sure say I never thought I'd release an episode about psychedelics, but here we are, always learning, experiencing something new. So enjoy this thing, man. This is funny, but I just want to say the biggest thing I learned from this experience is releasing judgment of myself, of others, of the experience, of anything really, because I've realized judgment is trying to protect you from being wrong. So when you judge something or something else, you're trying to protect yourself of what your belief is. You have to, if someone else needs to be wrong for you to be right, then that is fear showing up because it feels scared of being wrong, because that feels scary. Because if you're wrong, then it feels threatening. Like the unknown is unpredictable, and that feels like a threat to your subconscious mind, to your nervous system. So that's how I feel like judgment plays a role in our life. And I'm about to turn 31, and that was definitely the biggest lesson I've had this year, is releasing so much judgment for myself, for other people. And it's been amazing, like so expansive, so enlightening, and I'm so grateful for it. And this was one major contributor to that lesson. And I'm so grateful, and I hope you enjoy. All right, y'all. Here we go. um, this is kind of funny. I never would have thought I would be recording a podcast about this. Well, I can't say never, but just because I'm open to experiences and to what I'm guided to. But as you can tell by the title, this is my first psychedelic experience. And the first thing I want to say, to be extremely clear, that this is not medical advice or really any advice. This is my experience and opinion and reflections and recount of the and of the experience. I'm not telling anyone to do this or to take drugs. I'm not trying to persuade you or convince you to rush into anything. But by attentively listening to this entire thing, you'll see why doing it in your own time is important. And as someone who I've had a stigma for drugs of all kinds, even FDA approved ones. Like, to give you guys a background, even as a kid, I didn't even want to take Tylenol. For whatever reason, I'm not sure where this story came from. But even Tylenol as a kid, I was like, no, I don't want to take anything. I just want to like drink water and eat broccoli and like get sleep and get sun and just like use like my body's natural system to do what it's supposed to be doing. And so I've always judged, like, part of me, it's interesting, like part of me has judged like drugs and alcohol and part of me hasn't. Like, I wasn't at home alone judging people and like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing that. But I guess when I dove deeper and deeper into it, I realized I did have more judgment, and you'll see later how much judgment I actually did have, but consciously I didn't realize how much I had. I judged them harshly. I didn't understand the people who were doing drugs, and just growing up with a strong no to any substance. Before this, I had never been drunk or high. I've still never been drunk. Definitely been high now, and you'll see it's completely different than I thought it was. So I still definitely pride myself on being all natural. So anyway, the drug that I took is called MDMA, also known as Molly or ecstasy. That's the street/party name. But MDMA is the pure form of it. So as someone who is dedicated to do what I'm afraid of, this was a big thing for me. And I'm really, really proud of myself. And the first thing I got to say is this was incredibly profound. This experience, I'm not sure, I obviously don't know for you listening if you've done anything or not. This is possibly the most impactful, in my notes I wrote down possibly the most impactful decision of my life. And then the next thing I wrote down was download city in all caps, which was so true. And so these notes that I'm going to be referencing, I so this was just about a month ago. It was actually 5 weeks ago. Um, the next morning I woke up and just wrote and typed notes for 2 hours, and got pages on pages, and I kept trying to pick my best takeaway of like, what do I share with people? What is the most important? Well, what did I learn? And I kept changing my mind about it because they're all just so good. And so whatever I share is what I'm supposed to share. Um, and I know you'll get and hear what you need to get as you listen. And know that my experience is not your experience. So don't go into something thinking because I experienced this, that you're going to experience the same thing. We all experience different things at different times. It's all individual. So what's important is how I came into this is like, of course you can do, drugs, alcohol, whatever. You can do it in a party scene. You can do it in a more conscious way. You could do it by yourself, which includes the conscious way. But for me, I'm not saying one is better. I would prefer for me to do it in a intimate setting. That's my personality and what I enjoy. But also I enjoyed, doing it with around people I love and that I'm aware with and familiar and safe with, because it was fun to share it with them and to have fun. But what's important is how I got the yes the night before. So earlier in the summer of this year, so 2021, I set an intention, probably in June or July, to release judgment. And I was just like, man, I just want to release judgment. And I knew this party was coming up, and I've been to, numerous parties saying no to drugs and alcohol multiple times. And for whatever, and this one I knew was different. I was definitely more open than I was before. And I was laying in bed with Belle, and we were about to go to bed, and I wasn't asking a specific question, but all of a sudden this crystal clear yes came in, that it was time. It was my time to experience this. And it just came in. I felt it in my body. And when I know something like that, I just know, and I'm all in. My brain definitely resisted a little bit because of my stories that I have. But once I know, I just got to go all in. So it was the night of the party, and we're all gathering, doing it in a bit of a ceremonial way. And one of my friends just got home from an ayahuasca trip, and I asked her about it, and she was saying how hard it was, which I appreciate the honesty, because when usually we're talking about plant medicine or psychedelics, a big part of it usually is left out, is that it can be heavy, it can be scary, it can even be traumatic for some people. And she told me how hard it was. And one of her, I think the last night or the first night, I can't remember, that she took the medicine, ayahuasca, is her intention was, show me what I'm capable if I'm not afraid. And I was just like, whoa, I love that intention. And I asked her right before we dropped in, right before we took MDMA. And why this was so important is because she shared her experience, which led directly into what I was about to experience. So I'm giving you all the rundown. I know some people might have taken, psychedelics or plant medicine before. What I am describing isn't plant medicine. MDMA is a chemical. You can Google it, like what the effects that it has on the brain and stuff like that. It is what people will say, like a heart opener. So a major blast to open of the heart, and you'll hear about my experience. But I'm describing for someone who has had a resistance to these things for such a long time, what I did to make me feel safe. like, yeah, like part of what I've realized one of my fears was to let go of control. And because I like to stay conscious, like I can control this environment. And what if I go somewhere that I can't control and I don't like what I see and I can't stop it? But that's why I know I needed to do it, because if I'm afraid of it, that's just how I operate, is I need to do the thing. But that doesn't mean I just go in without like the yes. Like there's this in between of, okay, I'm scared of doing it and I feel called to it and I want to do it, or just I'm scared to do it and I need to do it. Like that can be traumatizing. So anyway, my process could help you if you've never done these things before, and you could also just do whatever you feel called to. Listen to your intuition. So I put the crystals, I put them in water, and then I stirred them up. I dissolved them in water so I could drink more if I wanted to. So I wanted to start slow, see what I could feel, and then ease into it. And it made me feel safe, which is important when you're going to something so new. And then I wasn't feeling it at first when other people were starting to feel it. And the funny thing, what happened is I thought, oh, I'm not going to feel this like I don't, because like what I told you before with Tylenol, like and even caffeine, like I really don't feel the effects of drugs or stimulants like that. So when I didn't feel it like other people were, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so funny that, I've waited so long to this thing, and of course I'm not going to feel it. And then I also noticed the story of that this is going to prove that I'm better than everyone if it doesn't hit me like other people. Like, look, I'm above a drug. It's not even going to hit me the same. And I noticed that story, and I'm being very transparent throughout this whole thing so you can hear the literal, like, this story of how everything went. And so I noticed that story of like my ego felt so validated. I was like, oh my gosh, look, I waited so long to do this, and I knew it. I knew I don't need these things. I'm above drugs. I'm above da 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 da. And when I noticed that story, I was like, okay, showed compassion. And then I was just like, no, like I'm ready. I'm ready for this experience. I've waited long enough. I feel safe. I feel called. I've got the clear yes. Like I'm already drinking it. So I was all in, and I said it out loud, like to my guides, to the universe. I was like, I'm ready. Let's go. I'm all in. Let's do this. And I was excited and ready to feel and see what I've been closed off to. I remember saying, I am open and I'm ready to receive. And then, of course, I drank the rest of the water and it started to hit me. And I keep saying the biggest thing. There's so many big things. The first thing I noticed were, the brights were getting lighter and stuff like that. More, not like crazy bright, not annoying, just it was more fun and interesting to look at them. And the first thing I noticed was judgment melted away. It's funny talking about it right now. I can kind of feel this, what people call as high and rolling and stuff like that. And I know I can take more to probably get to that feeling. But the amount that I took it just made me feel like myself. It truly, and that's probably why, when maybe someone takes alcohol to say that they're taking the edge off. It wasn't even taking the edge off. It was like there was no lag in brain to body function. And it wasn't that I lost control. I was so in control. I was so in my body. It was just judgment, fear melted away, and only love existed. So judgment melted away, dissolved into nothing, and compassion from others and myself that I've never experienced. And I'm so happy that I'm recording this for my own journalistic, nostalgic, historical purposes. It really did. Like, I had no judgment, zero judgment. I was looking at everybody just purely for no stories, no identity, just like, wow, you're a human and this soul, you're just here. And I thought I knew what love was before this, but I didn't. It showed me how much fear lives within our love, my love specifically, but I imagine everyone else's. But I felt this pure love for myself, for other people. There, like I said before, there was no lag between what I was thinking, what I was saying, what I was doing. It was all just one motion. There was no, what is someone going to think? There was no fear. Exactly. No second guessing myself. And again, what I said, like I felt, again, yeah, on this high. But one of my different expectations is that I thought I was going to be fucked up. Like my head was going to be spinning. I was going to be seeing crazy stuff, and I wasn't going to be able to control it or operate or have no motor skills. But it was the opposite with this specific drug. And yeah, I was never more present, never more on my body. There was no hesitation in loving myself or anyone because I felt the unconditional love for myself and for others. It was just there. There was no question. Seriously, no question, no second guessing. It was just there. It was just present. No calculating, because I realized how much I try to think into love. I'm definitely like, okay, I got to think how to love instead of feel and just be love. So one cool thing is because of this, because fear was absent or very, very dialed down, I could acknowledge my own stories with pure love because my brain was out of the way. So I could not only recognize what I've been afraid of. So what happened is nothing like those stories and ego, that fear didn't exist. So it wasn't protecting me anymore. So I identified the stories that have been protecting my personas and identities. And then because of the love I felt, I immediately accepted it, forgave myself, had compassion. So it was just like seen and accepted. Check, check, bloop, bloop. And it was immediate. It was crazy. And another thing I felt was similar to the judgment being gone. All of my walls came down. I immediately forgave myself for judging this culture and people. All the judgment for people vanished. I forgave myself for judging people about judging. And like I said, my intention for the summer was to release judgment, and it happened. And it was crazy because, I've heard and read and learned a lot about how important integration is after all of these things. But perhaps the most profound thing that happened was how I view it as if you're watching this on YouTube is like my neck. All of this information was just stuck up in my head above my neck. And what this did is it just opened like a trap door, and just all this information just downloaded and fell and dropped and like soaked into my body. It was like a dunk tank. You know how when someone hits the target and they just drop in all this knowledge, information, wisdom, knowing, I felt it embody like through my DNA, through my being, through my body. And that's definitely the most profound thing, because I thought I realized how intellectual, how heady I am trying to think about love, trying to think of anything, which is cool, right? Because, I'm always reflecting, having these ideas, which is awesome. But I realized something with love and even all these things I'm learning, how it was just all up here, all in my head. And I thought I knew what embodiment was until I really felt it, until I allowed myself to feel, because I wasn't afraid to feel. And all of this wisdom just dropped in, locked in. And again, I was never more in my body, which was so different than I thought it was going to be. I was so in my body. Like everything was so present. It was insane. And I'm so happy that all the walls that I built up, all the time saying no, all the fear, all the resistance, all the stories that I built, because that night I had the contrast of no walls, no judgment, no fear. And I was shown what I'm capable of without fear. And I was like, wow. And it was so funny because I was walking around the whole night and it feels like you're like floating. Um, and I was just probably every 2 minutes, I was saying something out loud. And I know my friends growing up were always like, Ben, I wonder what kind of drunk you'd be. But I was, I was myself. That's the best way to describe it. There was no thinking. It was just being. It was just one fluid motion of my essence, just being himself. And so every 2 minutes, I was exclaiming these realizations that I was having. And Belle, was there with me and like laughing and enjoying it and encouraging me, celebrating me, and other loved ones were there. And it was seriously every couple minutes, I was like, wow, wow. And I remembered every single one of those moments that I had. Um, and I'm so happy that I could write those down and share them with you. So yeah. All right. Next thing I said, never more present, never more in my body. Um, okay. Here's another thing I wrote down. Oh, this was a cool thing. So someone brought me to their partner, and because it was a group of friends, and he introduced me to his partner, which I already knew them, but it was a cool like presentation, like formal way of bringing me to his partner and like presenting me to her and like what I do with fear. And I remember when I was shocked that someone could still feel fear in this moment, but again, there was like no judgment because everyone's in their own journey in their own experience. But long story short, asked me to hold space and coach her and provide any insight that I might have for the situation that she was feeling. And during this process, I was so clear in coaching. Um, it was so clear. Like it just happened to do what I was saying about there was no thinking. It was just one fluid motion. And I felt sovereignty in myself like no other. And also like I held space of like just she, no matter how she responded or what she said, it didn't like the love and space that I held was just so pure and present. Nothing shook it. It was just so like express what you need to express. I love you no matter what. No matter what you say, I'm going to respond in the way that I'm supposed to. Um, like I didn't feel like I needed to fix her or coach her, that like my reputation is on the line or I needed to perform. I allowed her to be herself fully. I allowed myself to be myself fully. But yeah, allowing herself to be her completely and fully was a new experience for me, because in coaching, sometimes speaking from personal experience, right, the job is trying to like fix the problem. And so, but I didn't feel that. It was so cool just to be, just to flow, like the words just flowed from me to her, and without me trying to coach or trying to find a breakthrough, just fully present with her in that moment. And I even offered her to follow up with me with the exercise that I suggested, and I invited her to work with me if she felt that. And usually when I ask that and I still feel it, so that's a takeaway for me to integrate. But when I offer to like, hey, like reach out to me if you feel called, there was no ickiness about it, because I still have some hesitance when I offer that to people, because it's like I'm worried about they're going to feel like I'm trying to sell them. There was no ickiness or trying to be salesy. It was just pure love, like, hey, I'm here for you. And you decide. I don't care if you do or not, because you're awesome and I'm awesome. And it showed me my capacity for love. Yeah. man, this is crazy how much it showed me. And I know not everyone's experience, especially the first time, is like this. My friend Doug Cartwright, if you haven't read his book yet, we just did a recent podcast a couple months ago. It's called Holy Shit, I'm Alive. That's his book. That's the name of the podcast. He also had a profound experience when he did MDMA for the first time. I think it definitely depends on your level of awareness, the setting, who you're with, where you are, what's your intention. Um, it revealed how much I love Belle, like without any barriers, without any worries, without any fear of hurting her, of being hurt. My walls were gone. And it became so clear that there was something, quote unquote, in the way for me and for both of us. I felt my heart and chest expand. And I remember holding her, like melting into her as we hugged and kissed. And it wasn't as extreme or wild that I thought it would be. Like, because when people say it's a heart opener, I thought it was going to be like, oh my God, you're attracted to everyone and everything. You know, like you just want to touch people. And like everyone does cuddle puddles. Now I understand that. And people I can see why it can be a tricky situation for some people because everything is love and you might be attracted to everything and you might mistake something as love. But that's even another time for another discussion, right? Is like, is it just love? And then we make up stories for it in reality. But anyway, um, it was so just, again, like present, powerful, conscious, and it was controlled but not controlled. It just was. It's so hard to explain it without just experiencing it. Of it didn't need to be explained, and that's such a big thing for me. Is it was just grounding. I was so grounded and present. I wasn't out of control or simulated scene or love. It was and it is so real. I felt pure love with zero thinking, just feeling and being. Oh man. And my body, I felt like my heart and chest, actually like my muscles open. And it makes sense why people get lost in these substances. I truly get it. Like, I remember during the high, I said out loud to people, I was like, oh, this totally makes sense. Why people get addicted or use these to escape or to numb, because these are incredible. And so, yes, they are medicine, but also they can be destructive. And luckily for me, I felt so much integration and embodiment immediately, right? All of that just from my brain dropped into my body. And I was like, whoa, this actually helped me with integration. And it showed me more. It showed me what's possible of love. It truly showed me what's possible. And again, I thought I was going to be out of myself, but I've never been more in myself. This revealed a massive part of me that I've been trying to think myself into. And I was laughing because I had my old awareness looking in myself at this moment, how I've judged and criticized people for years. And I was laughing and smiling with zero judgment because I knew it happened perfectly. Saying no for so long, building up this judgment allowed to feel the incredible contrast. And I'm so thankful for the me that said no out of fear because it wasn't time yet. And I understand so clearly in this moment that I didn't even have to process forgiving myself. Like we always ask how, right? You search on YouTube, there's all these steps of how to do it. I didn't have to do anything. I just had it. And I think really that's the answer for everything is the how. That's a tricky conversation, but it really isn't, because that really is the answer, is you just are. But, we have to discuss it as humans in this 3D reality. There was no effort in forgiving and loving myself. It just was. And I remember one reflection I had was I used to think it was weird for people to be so fully loving, especially when I was in those moments. I was like, man, why are people so happy, so loving? Um, and like how touchy people were when I watched people. And then I was laughing because I understand why. Um, yeah, I'm just like, you can probably hear me processing. Like, I'm remembering some of these moments again because it's been over a month of how, man, talking about this because I wrote these notes over a month ago. It's like my goal, passion, intention is to bring this feeling into real life for myself and for others. And it's definitely already happened more. Um, but these medicines, these drugs or whatever, of course you can access it without them, but these are great. They reveal what's possible. Yes, it can be easy to get stuck on them and trying to go use them to get back to this moment, but it also again can just be used of like, oh, this is who I am and this is what I'm capable of. And there was also another realization that I used to say I love you a lot to everybody. And then I stopped saying it because I questioned if I really felt it. Did I really mean it? Am I just throwing that word around? And this night made me realize that no, I do love everyone like I thought I did. I said it without question. Like if I was going to make them feel awkward or worried if I meant it and or if they would say it back because I just truly meant it. And that was it. Like it didn't matter if they love me back or not, just because I love them and I am love. And I unlocked this inner embodied confidence that I had never felt before because my head was in the way. Like I mentioned already, is that I've known how to do the steps, all the things, all the ways, but it just took away my second guessing. Was so powerful. I was just so clear and in the moment and in this natural state. I just felt like me. And yes, it's like a high, but it really wasn't. It was so interesting to describe. Of course, yes, there's chemical compounds going on in my brain with serotonin, but it was felt, I was like, oh, I just feel like me, like the highest version of me. And no mental blocks, no overanalyzation. I was fully me, fully in my body. I felt unlocked and released. Well, excuse me. So I had one moment of fear during this experience where I was hugging Belle. We were on the floor. And, you know, I was like, we were both on our butts. I don't know what, it's like spooning, but you're sitting. And so my arms were over her. And I had one moment of worrying that this feeling is going to go away. What people describe as coming down. I was like, this feeling is going to go away. And I was worried that I wouldn't know how to integrate it into my real life without the substance. And I felt my heart close up. And what surprised me is, because part of the drugs is I was afraid, you know, about losing control and being able to surrender. But as soon as I felt my heart close up, I just immediately surrendered into the moment. And as soon as I did that, the fear dissolved. I was like, that's okay. Like, it's meant to. Everything in life is a wave. It's a process. It's a journey. And it was much easier to surrender than I thought it might be. And that's the thing, like my thoughts getting in the way again. And so without the thinking brain in the way, I could truly feel into the surrender. And the thinking of how to do everything mentally was just gone. I was just the thing. I was like, oh, I feel this thing. And then, okay, I just surrender. So some of the fears that I realized during this experience where I was afraid of my own power. Interestingly enough, I realized like losing control slash losing myself in the drugs, which definitely don't have that anymore. And I was afraid to feel, because without that fear, I was able to feel so much in its fullest capacity. It really, seriously, it revealed so much about emotions and especially love and my capacity for love and joy. Um, because my body was protecting itself not to feel, and my brain was protecting itself not to feel. So I'm not telling you to go do any drug. I waited 3 years, or 3 years. I waited 30 years, and that was right for me. And drug is a subjective word anyway. Anything, food, um, anything could be a drug, right? Social media, all these things. Um, but these are, I guess, not quote unquote, they're not legal. So whether it's much less or much more, my advice would be to decide for yourself. And even if you've already done it right, is like, this is really for anything, but specifically for this is decide for yourself. The setup for me was literally perfect. Friends showing up, the coaching moment, how I just did like, it was crazy how perfect it happened for me. And I know this was set up in the exact way that it was supposed to be. And like, I remember questioning how I'm going to integrate this into real life, but I already know that it's happening. I immediately felt the integration, like I said, during the night. I felt like the integration was already happening because of all the work I've already done. So what I already mentally now my body knows. And because I'm such a deep thinker and writer, I was having like real-time insights, and I was witnessing them. It was funny. I was witnessing the witnesser. I was like above it, and I could see my human and my soul and my brain and my body like interact. It was just funny. Of like, oh, look, this happened. Like, I realized this story. Now I feel this way, and now I forgive myself for this thing. So it was cool. I was so, yeah, just because of the work that I've already done, I could literally see and feel the dots connecting. I was literally watching all of it happen, and I was like a kid in a candy store because I love this stuff, in sober life, in everyday life. And so when I was able to watch it so clearly and presently just connect, just lock in, and ooh, it was so fun for me in that way. And what I now understand, I understand fear on a much deeper level. So not only was it just useful for me and fun and all these realizations, obviously you can hear there's so many takeaways for me, but for my life purpose, it was revealed how much fear I still had once I felt none. So even for me who, is dedicated to working, of dissolving fear, of transforming and alchemizing fear, it inspires me to, I don't want to say reach, but be this feeling without drugs, because now I know it's possible. It confirmed to me that fear is the thing that blocks all of us from love and happiness, because when I didn't feel any fear, there was, it's limitless. Fear is trying to protect me exactly as it should. And I say that in a helpful way. Like, the timing wasn't right. So fear was actually doing its job and protecting me from the thing because the timing wasn't right. So fear served me exactly as it should, because it built up all the stories and frustration to a perfect height. So I was ready to let it go. So if you're in a moment of, know that fear, like, yes, you always have a choice to dive in and let it go. And that's the thing holding you back. But when I was ready to let it go, I could feel the contrast of how much fear I still had and the love and the freedom. So even though it was unhelpful, it was also incredibly helpful, And the tricky part is discernment, because when it is helpful and when is it not. And honestly, we might not ever know. And I'm okay with it. And the greatest power slash control is surrendering all the control. That's like, but we still have free will in our discernment, and it's all incredibly individual. And like, yeah, there is no right way. There is no right way to do this except just know for you. Like, it's still going to be scary. I came to a point, like I mentioned, where the night before laying in bed, I got a clear yes, came into my awareness, but I still had to lean into the fear. Like before I started, I was praying and asking for guidance, um, me to be taken care of and guided through this experience. So no matter how much I explain this, I feel like I could just keep going and talking about it. But I don't know it will make sense exactly, because your experience is for you and for you alone. Just like this experience truly was for me. Like there, my explanation is like maybe 5% of the feeling like that I had. And even I remember Belle trying to, and other people trying to explain things about it to me before, but you can't explain it. You just have to experience it for yourself. And I'm so glad that I did. And I can say clearly that I'm a better me, a better partner, and a better overall human to everyone, and definitely a better coach and leader to clients now because I'm me. Like, that's the answer. Is this just revealed and unlocked me? Just me. So, yeah, everyone's experience is different. But there we go, friends. So, man, can't believe I did it. Well, I can believe I did it. But maybe 3 years ago, me would have been like, I can't, what are you doing? Because they would have said, you're a druggie, or you're losing it, or you're a delinquent or something. But trust me, there's plenty of successful people who do drugs and plant medicine. Actually quite useful. So anyway, that's my first psychedelic experience. I'm recording this. A big part of it is for me because I want to go listen back to this and have this documented for me, so I know what this experience was like. Yes, I have it journaled, but I wanted to speak it out. And this may be helpful for someone who has resistance to these things. Again, do these in your own time. Get that clear yes, and you're probably going to have some resistance and fear. Lean into it. Have a safe setting around you. People know what you're getting is, clean, reliable. And again, I'm not an expert by any means. There's plenty of people who are around me that I trust that are experts, and I've been doing this for years. And so I trusted them. And yeah, it was fascinating. And talking about this again truly motivates me so hard to like, this is real. Like, this feeling that I felt is real. The other stuff, yes, it's real because it's part of this human experience, but this is a state and something that we can choose and feel into every single day. And man, all right. And there we go, y'all. Ben, your first psychedelic experience. How you do?